So yeah, that's what we mean roughly, condition-wise. I have seen them on breezy-ish days, but generally nearly always clear. The odd occasion when it's snowing or has snowed, that can make them drop in too. It's nothing dramatic to talk about, but now I've got to the bottom of the car park field, because it's flooded, you can make out behind the little egret there, the water level is probably a metre above normal levels, and that means that the water on Lee Farm Lake is visible from here, which it never normally is unless it is flooded like we're looking at there. And that would be number 8, because even though I didn't have the phone out quick enough, 6 went over my head as I was just starting to walk away from my car. Then a 7th followed away, which gave me that little 2-second clip. And here's number 8. So it's not a lot happening, and I just thought I'd take a few moments to talk about kind of birding, kind of top tips 101, whatever you like to call it, really. And that is that I can't even do this without looking around at all times. You know, it's great to be able to look at a camera, engage with my lovely audience, whoever you all are and will be in future. And I'm really enjoying doing this in the hope and sort of, just in the hope that this is going to be something useful for people. But I just wanted to say that, you know, I'm stood here looking down the car park field. Let's swing the camera around. My scope's facing out over to just to right of Lodge Wood. Everything's obviously in sort of mirror image, so and I'm, you know, lifting these things all the time, looking out over there, panning around all the time. I look for movement with the binoculars, and then I instantly go to this thing straight up here, and you know, I'm checking best I can what a bird is. You know, a lot of the stuff I can pick up and identify with my bins, but anything I'm not 100% sure about, I'll secure soon enough with the scope, unless it's just so far away or vanishing as I get onto it. And that happens a lot too. But you know, new people will quickly realise, new people to bird watching will quickly realise that lots of people are walking around with these things, these telescope things. Do I need to get one? When you start, probably not. But I would never want to use the word if you get serious. But if you get interested to a point where you think, maybe I should, have a look through other people's scopes before you make that call. They're not the lightest thing in the world to carry around. And there's you know, various ways you can approach that subject. When I'm in sight, mid-birding, I do not collapse the legs on my telescope. I basically walk around with the legs down, walking along. If I see something, I put the scope straight down, and yes, obviously I'll put my bins on it immediately, but if it's something that I just have, my instinct says, you know, I need to get on this with the scope immediately, which is a whole different subject to do a little clip on, then I'm straight on to the scope. And one thing I talk about in my head, and I say to others, is getting a bird in the scope that's flying is no easy task. In fact, it's blooming difficult. So the only way to overcome that is to practice all the time. And with practice, we don't talk about perfect, we just get good. We get talented at getting birds in the scope on the move. Still difficult for me, but I practice all the time, absolutely all the time. Right now, looking around, and time for me to have a look around. Not the nearest, but round our way, most people adore kites. They're big, they're graceful, they're agile, and they put on a performance, and they fly really low, so they're kind of like a people's bird. There will be people that don't like them, and as I inferred in a very early clip for me, there is a part of the gamekeeping community that would have you believe they're a menace to partridge and maybe pheasant populations. A good friend of mine said he knew of a gamekeeper that had a load taken by kites, I have my doubts. Young birds, you know, little chicks, they're only going to be the size of a chicken egg. I see that as a possible, but only an opportunist kite, and they're all opportunists, but if you study them, I don't go up and down the country studying them, but if you watch them, and I've already put a few clips, maybe I'll do a bit after this. These guys are cruising for an easy snack, and I read somewhere that their claws are not anywhere near as strong as the buzzard, which is a live prey raptor, carnivore. And you can have it. You believe who you want to believe. Zoom him up a bit more, see if I can steady that. They eat a lot of worms. That's what they say. They eat a lot of worms. A lot of birds, most birds are pretty wary, but there's many instances where they don't come across wary, and they get used to cars in traffic, for one thing. So you try and get near a rook in a field and you won't have a chance. Sitting in your car, if there's a bunch of rooks sitting on a sort of grassed roundabout, like I've seen in the past many times, you can drive past them and won't take the slightest bit of notice. And same with gulls. This landfill, go back, well, they closed it in 2005, 6, but right in front of me there used to be a big mud bank, which was the topsoil they were going to use to cover over the landfill, all the crap they'd thrown in the ground. And I used to stand on this bank looking at the gulls, and gulls love tips because there's all sorts of morsels and things to peck at. But bottom line is, second you peeked your head over the top of the bank, gulls would see you and they would scarper or fly much further away. And the funny thing was, the gravel company, who we were and are friends with today, because they let us buy Lee Farm Lake, they told us, well, we'd prefer it if you'd just come and report to the office and get a high-vis jacket. And I pulled a face and went, oh, for goodness sake, high-vis jacket? How's that going to blooming help? But I did it because we want to play nicely. We knew we'd want access to the lake in future. And the hilarious thing was, in the high-vis jacket, wandering around designated zones, the girls didn't take the slightest bit of interest in you. They weren't bothered at all. And it suddenly dawned on me, light bulb moment, that they get used to certain things where they decide you're not a threat. And someone walking the landfill, and there were many staff walking the landfill, just picking up odd items that might have caught on wheels or whatever, you know, just sort of safety people and people doing pedestrian tasks around the landfill equipment. And the girls took no notice. So I became one of them in their eyes, and it became suddenly absolutely a piece of cake to see these gulls close up with no likelihood of them flying off. And I suspect there are a number of scenarios where you could replicate that and not be seen as a threat. I'm saying this because if I started walking out across the landfill now towards that kite, it would soon fly. So I'm clearly at a safe distance, and I would love to get some clearer footage than that. They do perch in the trees outside of Ron's hide, and I'll have a bash at that the next opportunity I get down there. But right now, it's completely flooded along the footpath. We ain't going nowhere. He's clearly just warming himself up, isn't he? I say he. I don't know why we always say he, but he's no doubt having a little warm up in the sun, and can have another fly around soon. Right, hopefully we've got some audio back. These little birds in the bushes here, quite a little challenge focusing on them. Meadow Pipits, oh, and joined by a Fieldfare, isn't that lovely? And so as it happens, things are pretty lively this morning. I'm having a great time. I hope this is interesting and fun to you guys too. Just going to cut to the other bush. Yeah, here we've got more Fieldfare, a couple of starlings at the top. And yeah, it's all going on. You see Fieldfare passing by in the background as well. But yeah, oh, Meadow Pipits were nearly giving away what they do then. Jumping around, little flitting kind of behaviour they have. Yeah, it's a characteristic. I have probably mentioned before, we talk in terms of bird having a particular jizz, the way it moves, the way it holds itself. It all comes together as like a jigsaw into good pointers to how you clinch the identification of any particular species. And even though there's half a dozen-ish over there, they're coming up off the ground, coming off the bushes, and keep going back to the same spot I was filming them. But I've clocked this one on the bottom left of a berryless hawthorn, and I don't think there are going to be virtually any hawthorn berries anywhere. So they must become, just like the kites, rather reliant on other grubs and worms. And they are one attractive bird. All contrasts. Greys and blacks and chestnuts. There's a little bit of buff in there, speckling, and yeah, what a beauty. They look a bit nervous about the kites being over, don't they? And, yeah, so another little tip for you. When birds start tilting their head, they're not necessarily looking at the ground. Quite frequently, they're actually looking up. And there's one thing that's generally true, pretty much most of the time, and that is the birds will see the predator long before we do. So again, another top tip, when the birds all start making twittery noises in a heated, fast and furious way, it's time to check all directions. Where is the predator? because it'll be out there. Hopefully you can hear the little grebes calling again. Well, I guess the golden plover are going to have to wait one more day, and but I don't mind. I had a really nice morning. I'm looking forward to putting together the footage of the kite. I think I had a audio fail on that, so I'll probably just see if I can find a little bit of music to go with it. And do feel free to comment if you think that works or not. If you prefer to hear the sounds in the background, I'll try my best to make sure that all future audio fails are avoided, and see how we go. Right folks, it's time to wrap up. I've had a lovely little hour or so here. It's who doesn't love bright mornings? I've said it before many times. It's been real nice, you know, just being out. You can just hear a parakeet coming over us now. It's been a fantastic hour out here, and lots going on. I wish I could stay longer. I've got work to do. I might come back later. I'm Fraser Cossington. This is Find of the Day. See you soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell.